Thank you guys for tuning in to Afrovibes TV and Radio, the #1 African and Caribbean station worldwide. This is the Spotlight here on Afrovibes TV and Radio. We welcome Mr. Valentine OZIGBO, who is the PDP candidate running for the governor of ANAMBRA state. Welcome to Afrovibes TV and Radio. How you doing?
I'm very well. Thank you so much, Issa, for having me. Thank you.
No, this is a pleasure to have you. We are just excited to get you to answer some of these questions. So us as the African diaspora and then people in Nigeria too, we are knowing more about you and we can just really, support you as you get this position here. So congratulations on your recent victory at the Court of Appeal as the authentic candidate of the PDP at the ANAMBRA polls that was scheduled to hold in November. Let's get started with talking about your academic background. So a lot of people know that you attended Christ the Redeemer College in ANAMBRA State. You earned an accounting degree and an MBA in banking and finance, both from the University of Nigeria. And then you got a master's degree in finance with distinction from Lancaster University in the UK. Tell us a little bit about how your academic background has equipped you to become the governor of ANAMBRA State.
Thank you so very much. As a matter of fact, I believe it's a total package that gets one qualified and fit for the role, whichever role you want to apply for in life. As a matter of fact, again, I am one of the biggest believers in the concept of the most decisive factor of success, both in business and in governance, because it is, and it's usually not what is taught in school, but it comes from nature and nurture. Some of this you're born with, some you start to groom as you study, as you get exposed, as you preparing you for higher calling. And then ultimately, when you also have experiences in the field you're in, you learn more about governance, you learn more about accountability, you learn more. So all of that comes to a total package. But clearly, my academic qualification is a huge advantage for me because of what I'm just going to share now. I come from a very humble background, a teaching background. My father retired as a headmaster and a catechist at the secondary school level, and ultimately, when I actually got into the corporate world. And the essence of all of this is to level and then exposure, so that start to understand from a much grander, big picture manner. I'm a fellow of multiple bodies. I also enrolled in the Global CEO program, which I did in multiple universities in the world, in Kenya, Lagos, and New York. And all of this has enabled me to meet people, converse at the global community, engage on topical issues, understand things that are trendy, things that are modern, things that are digital, things about our future, and enable us to see how ANAMBRA can actually solve its problem, and hopefully we'll start to catch up with the rest of the world. Now, in ANAMBRA, if you ask me, what is it that we need to understand how my academic qualification will fit in? We've got a perfect, what I can call ecosystem for success. We've got the people, we've got resources, we've got the intellect. What is missing is leadership, and leadership with the right value, right culture. And these are the things I believe both my accounting qualification, my master's degree, my exposure with the Global CEO program, I believe have prepared me for. But beyond that, I want to go back to the issue of emotional intelligence, which is where you show courtesy, respect for one another, for environment you're in, and also have what I call self-introspection, where you are a master of your emotion, knowing that you are managing diversity, you're going to be managing a lot of human beings, and therefore you need to bring a combination of this, humility, ability to listen, and all of that. So I believe I am well fitted for the role I'm going for. so that Anambra people can really, truly be proud of the governor they're about to have. A governor also that can inspire younger generation, a governor that will understand the needs of the people and the importance of solving Anambra problems Anambra way.
Got you. And, right now, you are, as we talked about, the PDP candidate, but there were obviously other people that were trying to be the candidate to represent the PDP. So what efforts are you and just the PDP leadership making to, I would say, pacify the aggrieved candidates, but more importantly, their supporters? Because the biggest thing is you can take your academics and you can make sure that you are the right person for the role, but you want to make sure that you're the right person that's backed by the right people as well, so that after the primaries, you can unite the party, right? So what efforts are you making to do so?
Yeah, our primary was June 26th.
Yeah.
That very night, the Air Force started. We had spent zero time in celebrating. It was about getting us united around a common goal, which is to win the election and to govern well. So we were 16 in number, and I spent time, energy, resources engaging the rest of the 15 other, aspirants. And I'm thankful to God for the success we've achieved in that regard, because we do have a majority of them backing my candidacy. So I think we have enough to win the election. Clearly, if the rest will come on board, we'll welcome them. But at this point, the election is 1 month away. It's time for us to shift attention together, in a unified manner, to focus on the real, the people at the grassroots who are going to be the real voters, who to be them to decide who leads them. And so this is why we are now emphasizing grassroots media engagement, ensuring that we fire on all cylinders. And we're mindful of the need to still get everybody on board. And I want to say this, some of the aspirants we visited up to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. Some we visit with people who they respect, with leaders in the church that respect, the politics that they respect, to try and see what would be their interest, so we can make sure their interest is well protected, and also giving them hope that we are about to win this election, that this is winnable. And indeed, I can tell that people understand that the election today, PDP is ahead of others. The second position, I'm hoping, would be a distant second, given the way we are preparing for this election, because we've also been reasonably assured that it's going to be free, fair, and transparent. And that's what we're looking for. Let it be a level playing field. Let the grassroots decide. And by the grace of God, we've got the best of candidates in me and my running mate, Azuka Nemo, who is a veteran in governance. She has been twice a commissioner under different administrations. And if you talk about the party platform, PDP is a party that the Igbos accept today, theirs. And so I am coming from the fantastic platform that can enable us to win easily. PDP also happens to be the only one out of the major ones that conducted a free and fair primary. Others didn't. And what you find in others is largely an imposition, either from the federal or state level. And it's also important to note that, talking about the future of Nigeria, it does appear that PDP has got a story to tell. And in terms of what are we coming to do for the Anambra, if you also look at our manifesto, it does appear we've got superior proposition. So across all parameters, what about the character of the candidate, what about the party platform, how we emerge, and what we're offering, we do have superior message and content. And this is why I believe you're talking to me and not the rest of the other candidates.
No. I like that. I like that you are really focused on it being grassroots, right? And making sure that the people are the ones who determine this, right? And some may say that, Anambra State is an APGA controlled state. So one thing I even want to ask you at this point is, what are your chances, do you think, of defeating, the candidate, Professor Charles Saludo, because, he is being backed by the state governor, which is obviously has the power of the incumbency. But I do like that you always are talking about the people and having grassroots. But I know a lot of people are saying, okay, well, how do you think that you level up against, Professor Charles Saludo? What do you say to that?
It's interesting you've asked this question. Saludo is a big brother to me. He's a good friend. We've related well over the years, and I continue to have my respect for him. And Gonobian also, it's somebody I had known and respect as well. But I believe, unfortunately, the jury is out there as to the state of affairs in Anambra State. And I can tell it's not good. A lot of people literally have vowed not to return to Anambra in recent time. And reason being that they feel unsafe. It doesn't matter how this is occurring. The important thing here is that under your watch, Anambra people are feeling unsafe. Under your watch, the roads are totally dilapidated. If you're talking about power of incumbency, it rests on two things: power and incumbency. The key point I want to make is you've got to be performing well. You've got to have your momentum high to have such a power. Otherwise, actually, association with you could actually be an anathema candidate. And Saludo himself, over the years, had taken steps that have made people realize that indeed, maybe he's not well suited for this position. Remember, he was a candidate of PDP in an election in the past under, at the time when PDP was an incumbent at the federal level. The incumbency factor couldn't help. And at the time, he was just out of central bank, he had his momentum high, and not now that he's even retiring. There's several things that set us apart. One, I'm younger. I can connect better with the grassroots. I'm seen also to be a good listener. I am somebody who has been there engaging. I toured the 21 local governments up to 7 times because I needed to immerse myself to understand this of the Anambra. And he hasn't done that. And I'm coming from a party that is national, not a party that rests only in Anambra State. I also emerged through a transparent process, not an imposition by a sitting governor. PDP is in a much better shape. ABGA is being torn apart. ABGA used to be a much stronger party in Anambra State, not anymore. ABGA used to perform well under P2B, not anymore. Saludo had been candidate of the party in the past of PDP, governorship candidate when PDP controlled Nigeria and still lost. And, he also obviously feared emerging even as a candidate of ABGA, which is why, what did ABGA do? They tried to impose him, basically. They tried to disqualify people who were qualified. How can you say a sitting House of Reps member is not qualified, a sitting House of Assembly member not qualified? And ended up creating a mess, just like they've done in the past. If you go back to the primaries that were conducted by ABGA in the past, it's been a mess. That's why they have even an association called Aggrieved ABGA Aspirants. Yeah. So now there are even more aggrieved people in ABGA than people who are happy in ABGA. More aggrieved people from Anambra on ABGA than those who are happy. So I actually think election will be a home run for us if we allow a level playing field. And what I'm thankful about, beyond the fact that we have superior offering, we're coming from a superior party that is more national, and we have a superior messaging and content, and coming also from a superior mindset in terms of ability to listen, knowing that you don't know it all. This is so important. Governance is about managing diversity, managing people of varying interests, varying orientation, and what you need to understand that you cannot know it all. And thank God for that gift of emotional intelligence, which enables us to show courtesy, respect, humility, knowing that indeed we are all a creation of God and we're not God ourselves. But I also want to say this, what is important? ANAMBRA people understand now performance is far more than party. And so who you are and what you're coming to do is far more important. And who am I? I'm a much younger person in my prime. I have a future ahead of me. I'm not a retiree. I'm not somebody who is looking to now settle or maybe use a platform to vie for presidency or whatever. I'm here to tell a number of people we've got to change that story because it's going to affect me, because the part of my life is still ahead of me, hopefully. And so being youth, being digital, being modern, being trendy, being understanding how to connect with the future, and carrying the youths along. I'm called king of the youth. Also endearing myself to women folks, ensuring that we give them the courtesy and respect that they deserve. I'm now going into the messaging. How do we actually start the how of changing the story? How do we intend to bring quality governance to ANAMBRA people? And also, in this, I know we're going to have enough time to talk about it, but these are the reasons why I am considered better. So when you conduct available polls, you see clearly that I stand a much greater chance than any other person on this race with me. And that's why I'm praying for and I'm asking for all stakeholders to allow a level playing field and stop the killings and scare. Because, you know, people would always say that there's an Igbo adage, when the land is not good, it's for the benefit of the chiefs. Because when they gather to always settle disputes, they're settled, they're given money. So there's some people who may be benefiting from the instability and insecurity that we have in today. And certainly not us, but what we're looking for is allow a peaceful election, a transparent election, so that the will of the people will be respected. So I want to conclude by saying we have far better chance than any other person on this race.
Okay. And you kind of touched on security, and we're going to get to security in a second. But your stance here is that PDP, you guys are more together. There's more of a sign of unity. And you as a candidate, you're younger, you're more engaged, you're more about ANAMBRA as opposed to trying to climb up, you know, whatever ladder other people are trying to do. And so you're more focused on ANAMBRAians as opposed to, you know, being in a party that's more divided, that is not so in touch with the people and their interests. Could you elaborate a little bit about why you had said that PDP is a superior party than any other party?
In fact, let me make this connection. What I usually would prefer that someone like you, your station would do, try to conduct a simple poll. Reach out to ANAMBRA people, reach out to generally Igbo people, and find out from them their preference. I did this before even, you know, embarking on this journey. And I knew that PDP is today the most acceptable party for Igbo people. And over time, the acceptability is actually on the rise. Some of the defections you're seeing are simply people who, either out of intimidation and or quest for money, self-interest, have abandoned what I consider the wider enlightened interests of greater majority. But I can assure you that in terms of acceptability, PDP is number one. And how do you also know this? If you want to be strategic, people in ANAMBRA are now seeing reason to be strategic. And how do we become more strategic in our thinking? Let's talk about election for coming up also in 2023. What you find, I'm sure you would know, that only two parties will present presidential candidates. Others may present, but they'll be unknown because those parties don't exist, basically. Which are the two parties? It's APC and PDP. Yeah. It's that simple, like we've had over the years. If there will be a third party, a third force, and they haven't started now, they can't, there's no meaningful showing they're going to have. So APGA will not have any candidates. ZLP, Accord, Labour, YPP, they don't exist as far as presidential election is concerned. And because of the connection between presidential and state, you need to see is a very strong correlation. And so at the end of the day, the question here, the choice is between APC and PDP. And your answer is as good as mine. Your guess is as good as mine. Which one is more acceptable to our people? That's where you start to see why we are gaining overwhelming momentum, especially at the grassroots. Forget about some people at the top who maybe they have some EFCC case or ICPC case and they show them they are seeing in their face and they want to decamp. Forget about those ones. Talking about the real people at the grassroots. Go and make your inquiries, conduct your survey. You come to the same conclusion that it is actually a PDP state more than it is today, an ANAMBRA state. And if you also think about what had happened in the past, we used to actually we won more houses in the House of Reps, and won more houses in the Senate. We had preponderance of PDP successes. And if you now narrow this down to individual local governments, you can start to see our strength, especially in Anambra North. Obari is a major forte in Anambra State. Ayamelum, Onitsha North and South, Oyi. These are strong in the 5 local governments that can tell the PDP would easily control. And if you now come to Anambra East and West, and where the state governors from his constituency, I can tell you too that even within his own local government, Anambra East, there are a number of wards there that would rather not have a repeat of Obiano or anything associated with that because of how he has performed. So we do have quite a greater chance in Anambra North. If you come to Central, where you have the likes of former Governor Peter Obi, Senator Uche Kunife, Honorable Obinna Chidoka, Honorable Valentine Ayeka, people like Boka, and there's several leaders we have there who are on ground. Even the state chairman of the party from Oka South, the leader of the BOT members we have, and NEC officer we have there from Senator Ben Obi to Iyom Josephine Aneni to Nanyawangu. There are several of these people who are on ground that will push our momentum. So Central, we are equally strong. If you win these 2 already, you will won. Now, come to South, where I'm from. I come from Old Agota region, where we are, yes, Solu is also from there, and Andiba is from there. But I have an advantage, especially from the fact that I am younger, I am more energetic, I probably may have more to offer. I'm trying to be as modest as I can. So we do have superior advantage. On the rest of Anambra South, from Nnewi North, Nnewi South, I feel we can actually be defined by Nnewi North. I know we will do it far better than any other Nnewi South and Nnewi South. And Ihiala can be a battleground. If we're able to get the key stakeholders there, the top businessmen there from Allen Onema, ABC Ojago, Obi Jackson, Dozie Group, can get them to align with the rest of Anambra, then we've won the election landslide, and that's what we're hoping to achieve.
Okay, but some people will say, because Governor Willie Obiano, some people say he's been a good governor, and some people even say his landmark or his legacy project was in Abra State Airport. So even though, you think there's a disconnect there, and obviously, you are definitely, the next, the better candidate now to come in and take this position, what do you think about this governor's, effort regarding this project, this Anambra State Airport? What would you do differently if you were in his position at the time and you were governor at that time? What do you think he did right? What do you think he did wrong? And what would you have done differently?
What I try to do is avoid talking about Governor Willie Obiano because it's not going to be on the ballot. I don't want to disrespect my elders. But since you've asked, I just touched on a few things. But what I also would urge you to do is when you are, make sure you create an opportunity for comment section. Ask ANAMBRA people who are going to be your viewers, tell me about Obiano's performance. So don't take my word, take their word.
No, we have a very interactive poll. We've done a poll actually, and some of these questions also that I'm going to be asking you are from the polls as well. And then we do have comment sections that will be on our social media.
I can guarantee you,
interview is posted.
I can guarantee you that ANAMBRA people understand that we deserve a lot better. I can guarantee you that will be the outcome of that poll. Now, let me go to the issue about the airport.
Yeah, let's talk about one project.
For me, I think it's rather unfortunate that we abandoned the rest of governance for one singular project. Nothing else has been taken care of, not security, not education, not health, not roads, not erosion control, not poverty, not empowerment, not youth, not women, nothing else. Just focusing on one so you can have your name on it. And guess what? I'm privy to how this project started. It was never designed to be like this. It was actually meant to be a private sector-led project. I'm aware how it originated, it was just meant to be government providing an enabling environment, provide the land, that's all, and allow private sector money come get this done. I don't know how the whole vision changed. And for me, for worse, because what is important is that, yes, we need an airport, let the airport be built. It doesn't have to be with the government resources at the detriment of other things.
So you would have changed that? You would have not had government resources allocated to it?
I would have preferred a proper PPP model where government plays a role, but let the private sector, who initiated this in the first instance, who has better enablement, better resources, and all that to get it done, so that it can be more professionally handled. You know, people complain, we're building a cargo airport without a warehouse. How did we think through this? We rushed to commission it. How many flights are flying in it? Not nobody, none. So, but what do I intend to do? I intend to maximize what we already built. Now, number of money is there. So we will take great advantage of the presence of the airport. So I don't want to appear to be criticizing too much. And there's a lot of opaqueness around the construction of the airport. We don't know how much it costs. Please, if you find out the figure, tell me. We've borrowed so much that I don't know if that project will be viable, ever viable. So I don't want us to mortgage the future of the ANAMBRA on one project because we want a landmark thing. So overall, I will do my best to make it happen. And if indeed there is opportunity to do so, I will always celebrate those who have started things before me. From Obiano, in the areas I believe has done okay, to Governor Obi, to Governor Ngige, to Mbadunju and rest of the other, and Okwadike. So the point here is, I feel that our governance has not been the best so far, and we couldn't have sacrificed the rest of other things on the altar of one project.
And what would you have done specifically different if you had to take over this airport project today?
There are several things that are wrong about Anambra State at this point. I feel that we deserve greater inclusion, transparency, cohesiveness, peace, and discipline. There are a lot of leakages that people are complaining about. We need to be more prudent, and we need to be able to set our priorities right. You go back and ask ANAMBRA, what do you need? What do you want? Where does it hurt you most? Focus on those first. Make sure you take care of those first. And when you ask this question over and over, we need roads, we need security. We just focus on these two first. Give us if you can't do anything else, don't abandon these two. They are the most crucial. Our life depends on this. We can afford to fly from Asaba from Enugu for now. If you get this right first, you can now build airports, but don't focus on airports and we lose our lives. Who are you building the airports for? Is someone we're all dead?
Right. So if you could do this again, you would focus on infrastructure and roads before putting so much money, especially government funds, into a project like the airport project.
And especially when we can find ways to get the same airport built without sacrificing the rest of this. So it's not going to be this or this. It will be this and this.
Okay, right. I got a question for you. What would be your legacy project if elected? Forget about the airport project for now. What would be your, Valentine OZIGBO's project that you are known for and will be your legacy project if elected?
I'm not praying to have any legacy project. I want to have a legacy in governance. I want a story where ANAMBRA people are proud of the state, where there's that sense of identity. Oh, I love ANAMBRA because things work. Under education, we are #1 in Nigeria. Under healthcare, we're the best. Under the roads are fantastic. We are more secure. Our businesses are more competitive. In fact, in ANAMBRA, you make more money running your business than in Lagos or Abuja. Our security are well remunerated. They have the best of morale. And we have, in fact, we've made ANAMBRA a technology hub. This is where we're starting to solve the world's problem. Another Mark Zuckerberg is out of ANAMBRA State. Right. Google and Co. They've got their, R&D centers in ANAMBRA State. And this is where I want us to, how do we catch up with the rest of the world? That's where I'm headed to. So I'm not here to go and build one flyover and put my name there because I want some people to read it as personal.
It's bigger than that, right?
Another Michael Opera. People who have built legacy, not on one project, but on governance and things they've done over the period.
So I love what you were saying about, how ANAMBRians are, going to be the frontliners in healthcare, in technology, in all these different sectors, and to make sure that the country, or the state, is soaring even past Lagos, like you said, and Abuja. But let's get down to it, right? We need to make sure that ANAMBRians are feeling safe and secure. So as we all know, unfortunately, there has been a lot of killings in recent times. We know even recently, Dr. Chike Akunyele was killed, right, by unknown gunmen. Even the children, I think, penned an emotional message saying that the killing was brutal and senseless. There's been a lot of other prominent ANAMBRians that have been killed as well. How do you intend to protect ANAMBRians, right? And how do you intend to investigate these killings and improve security? Because at the end of the day, we need to make sure that people feel safe and secure. And you were talking about a poll, right? And so actually Afrovibes TV and Radio, we did conduct a poll before this interview, and a lot of it was focused on the African diaspora, so Africans outside of Africa, and with respect to security and protection whilst they're at home, they are scared. They don't want to come back to ANAMBRA State this December, for example. So if you were elected, could you tell us how you intend to protect the people and also investigate and hold, the people that were the ones killing accountable?
Thank you so very much. This is such an important question because I now live in ANAMBRA totally. I mean, I grew up here. I knew what ANAMBRA used to look like. I had a lot of fun. My primary school, secondary school, and then university in Enugu next door. So always returning to ANAMBRA here and there. And today, we're almost becoming a ghost of ourselves. And to be honest, I feel terrible about the abandonment of virtues and values, how life makes no meaning anymore. The kind of things are seen today that we never imagined could be. Now, that said, we have to always go back to the root cause analysis before you can figure out how to solve any problem. Any problem, whether it's healthcare, whether it's in the corporate world, you conduct a simple analysis or diagnostic, as case may be. So when you want to find out what is going on, why do we have all these things happening? Is it economical? Is it because of lack of employment or no job or what? Mm-hmm. Is it because people feel marginalized and people feel disenfranchised? People feel hopeless that even their efforts can't get to anything? Is it that because leadership has failed, the elders have failed, the younger ones? We need to look at all these things. Or could it even be ideological, where indeed, people are totally of different belief that, you know what, there's no more even heaven and earth, so anybody can do anything and get over it. And so there's no due considerations for action. People just can spur of the moment, act irrationally. Right. We need to figure out all these things. And what we find is that we need to employ multiple solutions to get to them. One thing I can guarantee you, I know this because I believe it, that my emergence as the next governor would do is first of all inspire hope and confidence. Because we want to be close to the people, we want to empathize with people, we want to let them know that we care. They will understand the severity of the problem and the effort we are putting in. They will understand how much is coming in from both the FARC and the IGR, how we are utilizing this to solve their problem. We will give them reason to believe that there's a secure future for them. And when you do this, some people hold back. You'll be shocked how much of a percentage of the crimes and criminality will disappear. Because it is when we have failed governance, failed leadership, and people can get on. If you are in the midst of hunger, even a good man can become a bad man. Mm-hmm. And so, what do we do to inspire goodness from people who may be considered bad today? And
okay, so we need to get that confidence and that hope, but there's also bad people out there, and there's also corruption, right? And so we also want to make sure that, when we think of even End SARS movement, we make sure that the police officers are not corrupt. And
Precisely. Then once you're able to show proper leadership, not corrupt leadership, not biased leadership, once you're able to inspire hope by the way you conduct yourself and how you solve their problems, you deal with a lot of these things first. And then come to the issue of how competent, how motivated, how driven are our security personnel to do the job. Because once you're able to, you have to go from both push and pull factor. You need to curtail the criminality and you need to solve the actual problem. And we've got to get to where there will be consequences for action. You can't be in charge of something and something goes wrong where you're in control of and you go just scot-free. People must know in corporate world, simple mistakes can earn you a sack. Here, nothing happens. No, that's going to change. But we will first of all give you a reason and the tools, the enablement for you to act professionally. And so my administration, by the grace of God, will help to provide the needed impetus, bring them additional comfort, additional tool, additional intelligence, so they can work with. And we do this by not just the money we budget, but also the partnerships we form. We know there are clients who have done this better than us, which have done this better than us. There are embassies who we can leverage their skill, their intelligence, their personnel, and to train our people and get things underway. So we can solve our immediate problems. And there are also some we can solve in the immediate, but in the medium term. For instance, when we're talking about regional policing, state policing, how do we take things to a level where Nigeria can actually see this as a way to go? What I think here is we need to deal with problems that are immediate by providing sufficient tool. And then we need to deal with problems that are a bit medium term by providing the economic solution, give hope to people. We also need to look at the architecture of security of governance to see that we can. I want to brag someday that Anambra police is better than Imo police or Kogi police, because we have better training, better tool, better intelligence, better empowerment, better welfare. So when we're able to do this, you can see, I want Anambra, Nigeria to be in a competitive environment where we are competing for things that are good. And that's the only way we can get to the where US is, where UK is.
So you've talked a lot about, making sure that people feel safe, but to get down to it, Anambarians in the diaspora do not feel safe. A lot of them don't feel safe. And obviously Anambarians in Anambra State also do not feel safe at this time. What are some key tactical things you would implement if elected that would help curb this feeling and make sure that justice is served?
Usually for things like this, there are simple steps we must take to address criminality and achieve success that we require. Number one, we must investigate and make sure that people are brought to justice. Number two, we must ensure there are consequences for actions. If it means that we need to make sure the right people are put on the job and wrong people removed, we will try to achieve that. And number three, we must inspire hope and commitment from the leadership of these various organs of security. When these things happen, I usually will place a call to the military, to the police, to the DSS, and to charge them to action. I don't know if the current governor is doing the same. There is a security meeting happening in Enugu. I see a lot of trendy story where we are begging our governor to attend, something he should be hosting, given that we have become the epicenter of insecurity. So I understand why people are feeling unsafe, and I can relate to it. And myself, I feel the same way. But because we can't just be on the outside to criticize, I'd rather be on the inside to solve. And this is why I'm here. So the point, therefore, is mine is to make sure that we never get to this level again. We make sure that we also even identify who may be responsible for this and see if talking to them and getting them to understand things can help us achieve a desired end. But where we see they are not yielding to the good reasoning, and make sure the right justice is applied. And so I think that when we get all these things done, we will feel safe again. We've had incidents like this in the past, and we solved the problem. It doesn't take magical one to get it done. We can repeat it again. But it starts by having the right leader. When you have the wrong person, you can't solve the problems. You can't even ask you don't even know what questions to ask. So we need to make sure we are going to equity with clean hands. And I am thankful to God that I have this opportunity. In another 1 month, if by the grace of God I become governor-elect, you will already see action. I can tell you, people by December will have more reason to return home than now.
Gotcha. Okay, and thank you for that. I think it's really important to make people feel safe. And besides making people feel safe, I think people need to be able to use the roads and transport between the places they want to go easily, right? So I'm sure a lot of us will say we're not pleased with the state of the roads and the infrastructure in Anambra State. Quickly, what could you tell us regarding this topic, infrastructure and roads? How do you plan to sustain and improve them? How do you plan to improve the infrastructure in the state, period?
So there are many ways I can deal with things like this. Number one is to make sure the right funding is provided, the channel resources to where they are mostly needed. And there are a lot of ways we can cut. There are a lot of leakages we can block. I call them waste and leakages. People call them corruption. They mean the same thing. As long as the money is not coming totally enough, as long as people are diverting for other purpose, as long as even when it comes to using for wrong purpose, it's all waste. How do we cut this waste and channel the resources to where they're mostly needed, especially roads? That's one issue. And you also know that it may be a lot of people are egocentric. They just want to have their own road. They forget that it doesn't matter. What is important is that the roads are motorable. I don't have to have a Valentine road or like Obiana was, I did this road. No, I'm not really that interested in. What is important here is that maintenance culture. Just go fill up the potholes. Just go get some. If you can't get the best of contractors in the world because of the paucity of our funds, we can make sure at least we're able to use even direct labor, pay people, let them come and fix the roads and for a minimum sum. But at the same time, we are receiving close to 80 billion a year. There's no reason why we can't devote a greater percentage of this on infrastructure. That means we're not growing as a people. There's no reason why we can't spend up to 20, 30, 40 billion on various types of infrastructure, while we use the rest to deal and service debt and recurring expenditure. And when we do this, it can be rest assured a number of roads will fix. And there's something that is innovative that I've been talking about in my manifesto presentations. Because we know we have a lot of rich Anambra people who are on their own already building roads in their various communities. What are we doing to celebrate them? What are we doing to give them due recognition? How do we actually use them to inspire other people to keep doing the same thing? And so one of the things I want to do is make sure that we actually complement their own efforts. So if you're building a kilometer road, we will help you to build another kilometer road. And we will say that you're the one that's drawing this to your own community. So that way, we will bring people together once in a year and celebrate them and give them that recognition that typically the others will be jealous about. Let it be so. And if you want to just similar, go just something similar, we'll match. By the time you do that, instead of building a 100-kilometer road in 1 year, we can end up building 200 or 150. And so you can see we can have a rapid development in road construction within a short period of time. And that's what I want to achieve.
Okay, yeah, because I think road construction is something that a lot of people can relate with. That's how they get to, the store. That's how they get to work. That's how they go to the airport. That's how they get everywhere. And roads, you can have an amazing car, an expensive car, but if you don't have the road to drive on, I mean, it's kind of for nothing, right? And so we've talked about safety. We've talked about roads. Naturally, we have to talk about healthcare, right? So right now, as we all know, even last year, 2020 was a hard year for a lot of people. People lost their family members, people lost their friends. May their souls, rest in peace. How do you plan on keeping the number of COVID deaths to a minimal? And outside of COVID, in general, with the healthcare in Anambra State, how are you going to improve it and give and help medical attention be there in the community, equip doctors with the tools and the equipments they need, enable Anambrians to have quality healthcare? How are you going to do all that in spite of dealing with the COVID outbreaks that's happening as we speak?
It's interesting that we are getting into these very impactful areas. There are 4 major areas of my focus among many. Security, roads, education, and health. I'm happy we're talking about health now. And one thing that I know, there are more things actually killing Anambra people, Nigerians, than COVID. And there's a lot we can do to improve the quality of healthcare, from both the primary to the secondary to tertiary. And just even getting people to give birth in a sound environment and improving the level of mortality. There's a lot we can do. Just building the healthcare centers, equipping them, inspiring the doctors to do the right things, and calling them when they are doing the wrong thing, calling them out, making sure there are consequences for any wrongful action. Just what I've shared here can already change the story. Now, when we're talking about COVID, it's become a global disaster. And thank God that we're getting a better hand of it than when we all started. The emphasis on awareness, on keeping your environment clean, on washing hands, that has to continue. Making sure people are wearing their masks so that transmission is minimized. And also, more importantly, making sure that people are vaccinated, providing the tool, the enablement, and getting people to understand that this is best. Because a lot of people still don't believe in the vaccine.
A lot of people don't.
So we need to keep educating and creating the awareness. So those are the things we need to emphasize, and government can do a lot in that regard through their own funding and partnership with other global community who are putting money in this regard. So I think when we do this, we will be able to minimize the incidence of COVID and other diseases and health issues that are killing Nigerians and ANAMBRA people.
Right, and how do you plan to destigmatize that, right? Because we talked about, the vaccine, and that's the ultimate way for people not to spread COVID. A lot of people do not believe in the vaccine. How can you, from the government side of things, really impact those consumers and say, hey, the vaccine is there for you. It will prevent more deaths with COVID. There's a lot of stigma to vaccines. How do you plan on destigmatizing this?
It's about messaging, communication, and being authentic. It's being there to let people leading from the front. So what you found is maybe for some odd reasons, a lot of our leaders just shy away from talking, making sense out of the whole scenario. So just get out there, engage people, educate them, create awareness, and get other professionals to talk about this. That's it. I feel that is grossly missing. And that's why the stigma still remains. And it's not something we can do at state level alone. It has to also go up to the president and to the rest of the other states so that the bandwagon effect can help to destigmatize the whole episode and scenario.
Yeah. And we've talked a lot about, the grassroots, right, and the youth and how important they are, and even a few years ago, ANAMBRA State actually was, occupied the first position in national exams, right? When you talk about SSCE, when you talk about the NECO, you talk about JAM, but unfortunately, I don't think it's that at that position anymore. Actually, ANAMBRA State has been relegated to third or even fourth positions in national examinations. Also here in America, a lot of ANAMBRians are recipients of scholarships to stellar universities. So education is very important, at home and to the ANAMBRians in the diaspora. What are your plans to reposition ANAMBRians to be number one in those national examinations and even just improve the education that we get in the state?
The number of things we can do, just going straight to the point, because I know how important this is. I usually would like to take longer to answer, but I know we are taking a lot of questions in. Education is so crucial. I cannot be who I am today without the quality education that I received. I am coming also from an educational background. My father being a headmaster, I became a teacher myself. I taught in secondary school. I've taught some university people. I've also taught bankers. And so I know the importance, and I will emphasize education in three ways. One, ensuring that it becomes more affordable. I'll be looking towards getting a scenario where the first 9 years of early childhood education comes totally free. But we may not achieve it in the first instance, but we can achieve that over time. And also making sure that people are also supported to get onto university level, and especially those who are brilliant, who are doing well and have not enough resources to take themselves up there. So how do we improve this? Over time, we will be targeting to achieve the UNESCO minimum, making sure at least 25% of our budget goes into education. And then move on to quality. Quality is very important. How do you achieve quality? You've got to make sure that the teachers are well trained, well remunerated, and the environment is good enough. And when we do this, and we partner with the right people, there's a lot also the church can contribute in this regard. The much we've achieved was actually when we handed certain schools back to the missions and to handle. Bring everybody on board, bring the church, bring the private sector and government, you do yours, and you make sure you're all at par. So you won't appear as if private institutions are better than government ones. Actually, we want to see what government ones are better, because government is government. So we can do a lot more where you have efficiency in the entire process. How do you keep people glued to continuous improvement? That's what you do today. There are better ways of achieving that. Leveraging my training as a Kaizen champion, there's a lot we can do to ensure that quality is retained. And then on relevance, we've got to look at the curriculum. How do we ensure that the curriculum solves our immediate problems? I want our graduates to be able to come out and solve immediate ANAMBRA problems. If, for instance, we have motor manufacturing entities and other industries here. How do we ensure that what they're teaching them in the university will make sure that they're relevant as soon as they graduate, so that they can become more relevant? And how do we also improve on the other vocational skills and trainings? So we want to focus on this tripod of affordability, quality, and relevance. And we can also achieve this by true partnership with the private sector. I tell people, can we not get our billionaires to adopt schools? And again, just like we want to celebrate them when they construct roads, we can celebrate them when they build quality school or when they improve the circumstance of the school within their community. So if these things, I tell you, we will not be competing with Nigerian standard. We'll be looking at how we can get better than what you enjoying in the US and other parts of the world.
No, I agree. I think it's not even just education, right? It's also making sure that once you go through the rigorous curriculum and you graduate and you have your degree, you're able to find a job. You go through, you have your undergrad, you get your master's even, and you don't find a job. That's very, very debilitating and it's not encouraging. So making sure that we have quality education is important, but then how do you also affirm that, okay, once they graduate, there are jobs in ANAMBRA state, quality jobs, and not just jobs, but careers, so that people who are getting those jobs feel that they can stay and they can stay for a long time and they have that security behind them.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the best thing you can do is to raise the competitiveness of the environment. Competitiveness means you go into ANAMBRA state, you run your business, you have a better ecosystem, you have better living standard, you're able to produce at a lower cost, you're able to make more profit, and people are happier. Achieving this is not going to be easy, but it's doable. You do that by the quality of governance you provide, the infrastructure you provide, the enabling environment you create. And you're focusing on the success of that other business. And knowing that it is only when they succeed, you're able to employ people. People think government employers of labor, that's a very insignificant amount in terms of percentage. The real employers are the SMEs and the big corporations. How do we get them to thrive so that you don't do come home philosophy and they come home and die because the business can't survive another year, because a lot of businesses have come down and died. So we are known for business. How much have we prioritized business? People import a lot of things, but they still import through Lagos or Nepal and then go through a horrendous journey to come down to ANAMBRA state. Can we not improve that? Can we not look at developing new ports around us, or in fact, controlling ports around us? Again, working with the federal government and undertaking a PPP model, a public-private partnership, where indeed, because we know how important this is to our people. The same way, how do we solve the power infrastructure, power challenges? We have enough gas reserve. How do we move from processing to achieving power sufficiency, so that especially the clusters that are important to us, where we are going to be pushing a lot of businesses to come to, like Nnewi axis or Onitsha axis, how do we ensure that the power challenges they are solved? Because if you can't solve power problems all over ANAMBRA, concentrate on a few areas and get it right. And when you do that, you enjoy economies of scale. And then you move on to the road construction. So infrastructure covers all of this.
A lot of these
from
things.
Technology to power, to ports, to roads.
And these are the things that you want to do for the job.
These things, ANAMBRA will become more competitive. Yes, ANAMBRA will become more competitive, and you'll be seeing massive job coming in, massive job, because one corporation can, like a tripod, can feed in many SMEs, and those many SMEs are employing a lot of people at the grassroots, and we can easily create over 1 million jobs before my first term is over. This is how I intend to pursue it.
Okay, perfect. And before we go to break, I really want to touch on women's rights and women in the professional job market as well. After the break, we'll be talking about FDI, we'll be talking about VAT tax, we'll be talking a lot about even just the intricacies of the election as well, and things that you want to leave us with as far as if you were elected today, what are some of the pinnacle things you want to work on. But before we go to break, could you leave us with what do you intend to do to help women, especially? We've kind of dabbled in this, but in the job market and in society in general, making sure that they are positioned to be successful. If you were elected today, how would you impact this?
I actually think that women are a very special people. If you think about the global concept today is emotional intelligence as the single most important, key success factor. And women are usually far more emotionally intelligent than men. And in our society, they are more in numbers, they vote more, and you're actually obligated to pay attention more. So I will be naturally biased more for things that will help to improve the well-being of women than otherwise. And I'm also thankful that the experiences I've had over the years, I've seen the trend. I remember when I was, maybe this is also coming from my own family background. I love my mother, I love my wife, I love my daughter. They are the special gifts that God has given me. But even when I found myself in a career, I left embassies and multilaterals as the head. I actually handed over then to a woman. When I was a director for global transaction banking, I ended up handing over to a woman. And these things are subconscious. They were not things I planned. I became CEO of Transcorp Hotels PLC. And when I was leaving, I handed over to a woman. When I became the president of Transcorp Group, I handed over to a woman. And when it was time for me to choose my running mate, I insisted it must be a woman because I indeed find them more reliable. So, and usually when I talk about women, the men get jealous. So, and I don't care because, they're this special. So with that said, you can be rest assured that they will feel greater level of protection. There are a lot of traditions we need to change. Things, I am an advocate of continuous improvement. We need to question every status quo. We need to understand what is it still relevant. I also know that indeed it is a male-dominated world that we live in, but it can be a world where everybody feel important, feel appreciated, and feel respected. So be rest assured that from actions that I will take, from policies that will originate, from steps that I will take, that women will have the protection.
Okay, that is awesome. And I have one more question. I think I want to dig a little deeper into just women being in the professional workspace and having also the healthcare that they need. But we'll take a short break and we'll be back talking about women a little bit more. We'll be talking about agriculture. We'll be talking about FDI, about VAT. We'll be talking about a lot of different other aspects and sectors in ANAMBRA state and your opinion on them if you were elected to be the governor of ANAMBRA state. You guys, we are here with Mr. Valentine OZIGBO. This is the Spotlight here on Afrovibes TV and Radio. I am your host, Issa, and we'll be taking a short break. We'll be right back. We'll see you in a second. Hey guys, welcome back to the Spotlight here on Afrovibes TV and Radio, the #1 African and Caribbean station worldwide. My name is Issa. We are on the Spotlight today, and we are joined by the amazing aspirational leader that we have for ANAMBRA State. His name is Mr. Valentine OZIGBO. He is running the PDP party for governor of ANAMBRA State. How you're enjoying the interview so far? Everything is good with you? I know I've been blasting you with a lot of questions.
Fantastic.
You're doing good?
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, so I just want to jump back in. Me being a woman, obviously, I really want us to hit this. Women do a lot in the household. They do a lot outside as well. You know, societally now, women can be working full-time jobs and also be the caretaker, right, and the homemaker. How, when you're in office, what do you plan on doing to support the average woman to feel that they're able to get the right education, quality education, the right jobs, and, you know, have that transform into a professional career, should they do so, and also be a homemaker as well? How is the government going to support women in ANAMBRA State?
One thing you can be rest assured is women typically will have a level playing field at a minimum. What that means is, because I like not to overly patronize people just because you want to be a politician.
Right.
I know that when you actually allow a level playing field, women would have a say. They will have the quality, the content, you know, they can compete naturally.
Gotcha.
And there are certain professions or areas that may appear more male-dominated, especially when it's about physical things and all that. I understand that, but generally, where it becomes necessary to create that level playing field, take that for granted. Secondly, there are also areas where we need to apply affirmative action, where you actually need to push women front. And where that happens, if what I normally do, I will not sacrifice competency on the altar of anything. I want always entrenched competency in everything that I do. So if in trying to fill up a position, a man is more competent than a woman, I will not choose the woman because she's a woman.
Right.
But if I see that they are equally competent, I will choose a woman because I have a bias to help get more women on board. So this is what I think we should be doing so that we can actually give more voice. The reason for this is not actually because you want to help women, because we can get a better society when we can all fire on all cylinders. Exactly. Why would you want to optimize when you know that when this and that is firing, you achieve more? So we need more productivity, we need more, even at home. Women get more respect from their husband when they are independent. They must have some income level so they can actually support. And you never know, the man may die first. You don't want the family to be in danger. So whatever we need to do to make sure that women are, you know, more empowered. And so this is why everything I've ever done, my foundation, even when I became chairman of Unusual Praise. Unusual Praise is the largest Catholic gospel event. In 2018, I was the chairman. And that same year, we introduced another thing we call Unusual Entrepreneur, which is an avenue to empower people within the church so that you don't just go to church for spiritual upliftment, but also for empowerment. And when we got in there, we tried to actually bring a lot of women on board, and we empower more women than men economically by the amount of money we give to them, by the mentorship that would follow. And over time, you actually see that what we did with men and with women, we started achieving even more success with the women than with men. It goes to tell you that indeed we can be a much better society when the women are well empowered.
Yes. I think it's really important that, you know, no one's saying overly pick, you know, or favor women. It's more about making sure that women are brought to the table and they have that equal opportunity, right? But shifting gears really quickly, let's talk about agriculture. You know, agriculture is the key sector of revenue for the state. You know, the governor has even talked about, he started actually the export of bitter leaf and other farm produce as well. I know we've talked about him a little bit, Governor Obiano, but like, what would you rate the effort and what would be your focus if elected with agriculture?
Agriculture is one of the key priority areas because it is a sector that is both impactful and catalytic. Impacts by the revenue can help us generate, by the GDP we want to grow, by the employment we need to create, by the lives we need to touch, by the food we need to provide on the table. There's several reasons why we need to focus on agriculture. And catalytic because a number of other industries and sectors depend on agriculture. We can't really move on to become self-sufficient, reduce imports, and in fact, ultimately export, and get to a level where we can become a net exporter and importer without focusing on agriculture. So how then do you focus on agriculture? There are one of the clusters that I have in mind to focus on is the ANAMBRA axis, where we have 4 local governments and actually more beyond ANAMBRA. So we have Oyi, Ayamelo, ANAMBRA East, ANAMBRA West. This is where we have still massive land mass, where we have people who are focusing on various forms of agriculture, where we can now begin to prioritize across crops that are important. And then when we do this, we focus on the inputs. Let's make sure they have the right inputs for their farming. Let's support them with the right training. Let's support them with the right tool. Let's support them with the right technology so that we are already competitive at the primary level of production. Then we'll move on to tackling the value chain issues. How do we ensure the right processing equipment are provided and the right motivation given to the private sector to establish all these things, and making sure that the storage is also well taken care of, and making sure that ultimately we are able to move to a level we can get the end position and enjoy those values from the value chain, and even ultimately export. Thankfully, the new cargo airport is around the area, so it's easy for us to have road to markets very quickly. So we are focusing on these areas, again, because you find that in agriculture, women are even more empowered than men. That's what it is for now. A lot of men still feel that it's a woman thing. It's fine, especially at that primary level. But when they start seeing women make more money, I can tell you they will jump on board to see how they can want to take over. But what I can tell you for free, agriculture typically will be one of our major stays because we are going to need more food for the number of people we're churning out. And we need to make sure people are gainfully employed. And agriculture is one of the biggest employer of labor. And when it comes to our GDP, it's also a major driver of our gross domestic product.
Got you. And so we've talked a lot about ANAMBRAians in Anambra State. We talked about infrastructure, we talked about roads, we talked about healthcare, we talked about jobs, we talked about a lot of things in the state itself. So let's jump back out and talk about ANAMBRAians outside of the country. How are you going to help ANAMBRAians in the diaspora, particularly?
There's a lot. As a matter of fact, everything we're doing is for Anambra people wherever you live. As a matter of fact, again, I must tell you, not until we fix our home, our people can't raise their shoulders out there on the street of Washington or Arizona or anywhere. What do I mean by this? The pride with which you treat yourself, you have in your heart, is going to be dependent on how we'll be able to elevate our well-being, our humanity. Why are we treated like we are second class in most society? Why are we considered almost like a criminal, guilty until proven innocent? Why do you think we don't enjoy the respect that we deserve anywhere else in the world? It's because we are yet to fix our home. Fixing our home is a major priority. That, for me, imagine if we use Anambra to set an example of what governance should be. Imagine if, I don't want to use the word El Dorado, is what we see here, where things are functional. It becomes like where human beings live. You will be boasting about it. Even when you're not from Anambra, you'll be identifying yourself with Anambra. That's the sense of hope and confidence I want to basically unleash among our people, diaspora. So that for me is fundamental, more than anything else. Everything we put there on top is what we call Jara, let's embellish it. So what we now create a voice for you, make sure you're part of governance, whether you come, make sure that when you send your money, we have a way of making sure your money is taken, used for the reason, and creating an investment opportunity for you to be part of. And for me, again, I know that there are a lot of knowledge out there. There's the amount of, we can't fix our healthcare, for instance, without leveraging our diasporans who are there. I want to establish the best diagnostic center. I want to have a reverse tourism on healthcare. I want where people who are traveling to India and other parts of the world can start heading to Anambra State. The way we can do that is by making sure our diasporans who are in the sector, in the healthcare, to come home, partner, give them the comfort. And with that, I can tell you a lot of them will just start trooping home. The brain drain will become a reversal. So there's a lot we can do. And I've been talking to our diaspora community. I've held at least 4 Zoom meetings with those in the US. So I've done that with those in the UK, in South Africa, in Asia. So the idea is to leverage what they know. They live in a society that are better than us. So they have more knowledge, more content. And so we can fuse this with our own local content and we can have the best of 2 worlds. So we intend to make sure they are more comfortable and they come home faster and more frequent. I don't know the last time you visited Nigeria. So I want to make sure you come home more frequently.
Yes, no, I was back in 2019, but I like what you're saying, because with your campaign, there's a theme of making sure everybody feels included, right? When you talk about the grassroots at the beginning of this this interview, when you talk about making sure women are also being represented, and now when we're talking about, you know, Anambarians in the diaspora, you know, Africans in the diaspora, making sure that they're able to come home. So I like the sense of unity. And
don't forget the youth, because you're talking to the
and the youth as well, exactly. And so we were talking about, you had mentioned even partnerships, and you know, when we're talking about the businesses and even mergers and acquisitions of businesses outside of Nigeria, you know, when people talk about the FDI, the foreign direct investment, right? How will you attract and harness foreign direct investments from, you know, Anambra boys, Anambra girls, you know, in the diaspora? How can we make sure that that's happening and that businesses are flourishing?
I think this is actually where I am totally set apart from other people I'm running this election with, because this is one of my strongest areas. I used to head a unit in the bank called Embassies and Multilaterals, which meant partnering with the global community, the bilateral and multilateral agencies and embassies and missions. And from this, I knew the importance of governance, social infrastructure, care for women, making sure the right policies are in place. In fact, we learned how to make a company equator compliant, taking care of our environment, because these are the things you need to do naturally first before you become a recipient of some of these FDIs. And so I can assure you that a key component of our agenda is to complement our own resources with what is happening, what is coming from outside the world, so that together we are able to boost the pie and be able to solve our problems in a manner that will become more impactful. But beyond that, I need to also emphasize this. My focus will not just be foreign. I want to see more Anambra money working in Anambra State. And I want to do that by testimonies that will come from those who are coming home to invest in Anambra. So it's not just about coercion and forcing them to come down. Let them come and witness the incredible performance and competitiveness and comfort. I'm an advocate of that saying that money goes to where money is comfortable. You don't push people to go put their money in something make it comfortable, and that money will come and others will start pouring in. So when you have ANAMBRA people put in their money, they will draw with them these FDIs. And some of these will be partnerships that they will be forming. Because if the locals don't have the confidence to invest, I can assure you no foreigner will come.
Right.
So
that's a good point.
How do we elevate that level of, and so basically that's the key priority here, and making sure we allow a proper ecosystem, proper environment, where these conversations are had, where the multilateral and bilateral money and private sector money from local and from foreign are trooping into ANAMBRA State. So that story will change for good.
Got you. And then let's pivot into VAT as well, like value-added tax. And so a lot of people have been talking, there's been a raging debate, I would even say, about, who should collect value-added tax in Nigeria. People will say, what's your stance? And I want to know, what is your stance on this issue, especially with your background in banking and finance? But another question I also had for you regarding VAT tax is, why is ANAMBRA State not collecting VAT tax like Lagos, Rivers, and even Ogun states? Like, not even enough that the host states, with the largest retail market in Africa, in Onitsha, and then clusters of industries in Newe, right? So, how would you intend to change this narrative is my question, to improve upon overall internal revenue generation of the state, and just making sure that ANAMBRA State collects the VAT tax. Where do you stand when it comes to this issue?
I again come from the perspective that the only way we can succeed as a people, as Black people, as Nigerians, is we allow a competitive environment to thrive. Competition does a lot of good. When you bring rent and subsidy, you actually undermine performance and competence. You sacrifice competency on the altar of mediocrity. Allow a level playing field. When we used to celebrate our past, was actually when this happened, when the regions were able to become an epicenter for development, and then supporting the center and not the other way around.
Right.
And we need to go back to it, where if you are envious about what's happening in Lagos, go and build your own Lagos. Because there are things you can do. You can have a mini Lagos within you. Go figure that out. Until we're able to compete, I am better than this person. I want this person to be better. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about who should produce more sorghum, who should produce more maize, who should refine more petrol, who should do, because the only way you can do that is through proper reward system. The more you produce, the more you get. Simple. That's the philosophy. We have to get it right. And that's why we must restructure this country called Nigeria. We have no option than doing that. VAT is just a small component of that whole conversation. Right. The security architecture is another component to it. And everything else we're doing, let's evolve through that medium, because Southeast used to be regarded as one of the fastest growing in the world. If I can tell you that if we go back to this way, ANAMBRA will outperform Lagos at some point. I can tell you that. Women be disadvantaged now, but allow a level playing field. So I will actually prefer that the states collect the VAT and remit whatever portion to the center. And that way, the more you produce, the more you collect. After all, it's an output tax. It's about what happens within your locality. So you don't begin to, of course, maybe you can have a period of transition so that it won't be a shock to the rest of Nigeria. But ultimately, it should be the state collecting VAT. And this is actually how it was designed in the first instance. It's just that we've carried on in a wrong manner, and so it becomes difficult to go back to the right manner. So we can have a period of transition where all of these steps are taken and people assimilate themselves and are well supported. So we don't create a scenario where some states are totally moribund and delinquent.
Got you. And this, I agree with what you're saying, and I hope that we're able to instill this, because at the end of the day, I think that is so important. And even when we talk about, you know, FDI, I think it's just important to make sure that we are doing everything we can to raise money for the state, and we are also then allocating that money into the right ways. And that's what we talked about early in the interview.
Correct.
This next question is from our polls, actually. And so a lot of people wanted to know that that we know that there's a lot of, it's impossible, even people will say, to win a governorship election these days in Nigeria without having the support of a godfather with deep pockets. And so a lot of people wanted to know, Mr. Valentine OZIGBO, who is your godfather?
I've had to answer this question a lot of times. So my simple answer is actually, God is my father.
Okay, I like that.
And you know why? I say this truly. I could never have been a candidate of PDP with the support of one person other than God. If you know the people I ran this election with, if you know the support base that they had, understanding how I got into the Women Development Center, almost like an orphan, you can easily come to the same conclusion that God is my father on this project. Now, when this question is asked, I understand the reason. And one of the things I am excited about, my emergence, is that I emerged through the most independent and most transparent manner, without just anybody taking glory for it. I have leaders and people that I have tremendous respect for. I call them mentors, people who have done better in different fields than myself, that I want to learn from, and eventually, through their association, improve on what I'm doing. And there are quite a number of them.
Yeah, I said, who are some of your mentors?
You know, I started off banking with Diamond Bank. Pascal G. Dozier is still one of my mentors, was retired recently as the chairman of MTN. More recently, Tony Lumelu is one of my mentors. I left Transcorp recently to go into this race. And on the political side, I like what Peter B did. And so one of the people I respect. And I can go on to talk about other people who have done well in this regard. People like, former Vice President of Nigeria, Atiku Abubakar, has done well in terms of his ability to show competency in everything he has done. And if you now talk about some of our legislators, there are people who have done well in politics. Uche Kunife has done well. And Tutu Onyema. There are a lot of people in their different, corners and respect that they've done well. Now, together, when I learn from what they've done, I can be a better product. So, but when you use that word Godfather connotes somebody who doles out the money. So nobody doles out money for me. Who controls you? Nobody controls me. Who decides what happens around you? Nobody. But they have, people may have influence because I yield to superior logic. If we are engaging and I say this is what I think, I say this is what you think, and we weigh options and you feel that yours is better, I go with yours. You're not in control of me, but your logic may influence what I've done and taken. I said it because it's so important that how you emerge, it will determine how well you govern. If you emerge with your hands tied, where you sign off the future of Anambra State to one man or some people, you will not do well. The reason I still continue to battle in court because I refuse to get entangled. I want to get in there freely, so that how I want to decide the future of Anambra State is, number one, how is this with God? What would God think about this before I take that decision? Two, How do ANAMBRA people think about that? How would this serve their interest? Before we start getting into which other interests are there to protect because of maybe how they supported me in winning the election. So if you can come from that paradigm, I can tell you will govern well. And this is how I want to leave a legacy. So how I emerge is so crucial. And that's why there's no one man in that has, superintended my activities and provided all the funds required. I thank God I came prepared. And most of the funds that I spent on my primary came from me. And so
that's one question. That's one question people had is, in all transparency, how was your run funded? People had that question as well.
Largely myself, and then some friends and family who saw that I was making progress and started to support me. But I can tell you that if I wasn't well prepared from the beginning, I would have burnt out. If I relied on any one man, I would have been burnt out. I can tell you that for free. So I am as independent as it can be. Nobody has entangled me in whatever form. But like one man alone can't fund election, can't do it all. So we need partnership. And so maybe now, if you have all the billions, bring it on board. Maybe I can give you the position of a godfather, but for now I don't have any.
I like that. This has been such an informative interview, and I know a lot of people may have also been joining late. So I do want to kind of go back as we end this or conclude this interview to kind of highlight, why should people, ANAMBRA voters, choose you over other candidates in this forthcoming governorship election? I do want to kind of highlight that. I know we talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but in just, short, sweet answer, finally, Mr. OZIGBO, tell us, why should ANAMBRA voters choose you over other candidates in this upcoming election as the governor of ANAMBRA State?
Thank you so much, Issa. I must say that there's several things to say in such a small time left. The 4 things I need ANAMBRA people to always bear in mind. 1 is about the candidates. 2 is about the party. 3 is about the process. And 4 is about the delivery. What are you coming to do for the ANAMBRA? And what is about the candidates? I consider myself a child of grace, somebody who has come from a humble background, who understood what it means to respect one another, who is driven by a culture of continuous improvement, who wishes to leave whoever he meets in life with a positive impression, who has, through this, garnered enormous goodwill that's helping me to where I am today, which is why people always will see God's hand in whatever that I do. And you can see the grace of God I've spoken about has followed me through from my kindergarten age. I am last child, 7th child, born on the 7th month, 1970. And you see that as though God wants to make a David out of me because we share similar background. But when I started my entire career, I managed one of the best students in primary school, one of the best students in secondary school. I also made the best result in the faculty and the department in the university. I went to England, had distinction, and you can see a man in pursuit of excellence. And also, when I got into the career world, from banking to hospitality to conglomerate, you see that I always set standard. I always pursue excellence, and ANAMBRA will not be an exception. So you need a governor that has the right character, have competency, capacity, and compassion. And that's what you're going to find in me. Secondly, I've spoken about how important party is. The party of your people will make you not be an imposition. The one where your people freely elect you to represent their will. And PDP today is seen as a party that is more acceptable than the rest of the other party in Nigeria. And somewhere, how you emerge, my emergence came through a process that is considered free, fair, and transparent. APC did not conduct primary. APGA also tried to impose a candidate, so that gives me superiority in terms of the way we emerged. And then finally, it's about how we intend to govern. I mean well for Anambra State, I intend to shape a new future. I want to take care of the basics, make sure that our people are comfortable, and start the process to see how we can catch up with the rest of the world. I want an Anambra that will be a standard in governance, that will be the best in Nigeria, that Anambra will be proud of. I will make Anambra proud. Issa, you'll be glad to be part of this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And this is my final question to you. A lot of people, as you had said, know that you have a background in hospitality, right? And so people have said, how prepared is he? If he's really just been focused in hospitality. So I do want to quickly touch on that, about your preparedness for the governorship. And then the last thing I wanted to have you talk to us about is, what are the 3 things that you promised to do and to accomplish within your 100 days of being in the office as the executive governor of Anambra State once elected? So preparedness and the 3 things, just 3, that you would do once elected, 100 days.
Let me say this. I thank God for the level of preparation that my experience in hospitality has given me. You know why? Right. If you understand what it means to be hospitable, to provide service, to delight in the happiness of the other person, you will know that that's the best preparation you can get to serve the people. Governorship is about service. It's not about being a lord over people. And so I have the best of preparation. But beyond that is, let me remind you who you're talking to. I am a chartered accountant. I'm a banker. I'm a business developer. I have developed businesses in multiple countries, and one of the most connected by the grace of God. And I have expertise in agriculture, in power, in oil and gas. I've also been involved greatly in philanthropy. I'm one of the biggest promoters of freestyle football in Africa. I also promote entertainment, one of the owners of the best-selling movies in Nigeria, and also a major active participant in the church. So guess what? There's hardly anybody who is running this election with me that has gotten anywhere close to some of the things I've done. I've done things that never existed. When I started freestyle football in Nigeria, it was non-existent. And today I'm the biggest promoter. I can grow things from nothing. I don't want to talk like I'm boastful, but when people want to undermine your level of preparation, it's important that you let them, remind them who you are. And that's why I'm saying this. So indeed, I am far more equipped for this than anybody I'm running this, and I can challenge them. I'm waiting for us to get into a debate and let's talk about this. So Anambra people, you will have the best governor you've ever dreamt of. I promise you, that's what I'm coming to provide. Now, about what I'm going to achieve in my first 100 days, there's several things I want to do. I actually want to do simple things in extraordinary manner and extraordinary things in simple manner. So it's not about 1, 2, 3 things. I'll focus on 3 areas, like you noted. Security is one area, road is another, and power is another. Some of what I would do in the first 100 days to prepare ourselves, show what I call quick wins, so that people will have sense of freshness and sense of hope, so that they get more inspired. So how do we eradicate the dysfunctional system in the world? How do we ensure touts are off the streets? How do we ensure some roads are quickly maintained so we can have motorability? We can move from one place to another within a shorter period of time. How do we cope the traffic menace we face? How do we, those little things will happen when it comes to roadside. On the security side, I already share with you, how do we motivate our people to do greater things? How do we ensure that people are caught to book as quickly as any crime would happen? How do we ensure that consequences for actions being taken? How do we ensure that the right people are on the job? So you see me pointing, I'm going to take the period of transition between November 7, when by the grace of God I'm declared governor-elect, to March 17, when I eventually be sworn in, to eventually identify things I'll do every single day out of the 100 days. So you see me appointing my commissioner on day 1. You see us holding meetings to make sure we're holding them accountable and ensuring that governance is set and a proper tone. Because if you don't have the right governance, the right people, empowering people around you, I don't want to be Valentine's vision. I want it to be a shared vision. And when you do that, you are achieving a lot for the long term, as well as focusing on what you can do as quick win. So there's a lot we can do to make sure ANAMBRA people are happy.
Man, that was so informative. Thank you so much for this, because I think that it's really important that the people hear you and hear these points that they are very interested in, right? And I think this interview has been so informative and so educational, because we know who you are, but we need to know what you plan to do and how you plan on doing these things in the future as well. So, Mr. Valentine OZIGBO, thank you so much for coming on to Afrovibes TV and Radio and talking to us about what you plan to do if elected. We definitely wish you all the best. We want to make sure that it is a free and fair election, especially ANAMBRAians in the diaspora. Afrovibes TV and Radio is a strong believer in making sure that everyone feels heard, everyone is promoted, everyone is listened to. And so we're just really happy that we're able to make sure that we had this interview so you can talk to us about what you plan to do and your goals if elected. So thank you so much. I think everyone who's watching, I think, has been informed as to what you're trying to do. This is 2021. I mean, every day is just becoming so important to know what our leaders are trying to do, especially before they get into that position. So thank you so much for coming on to Afrovibes TV and Radio. Again, everyone, thank you for watching and tuning in to the Spotlight here on Afrovibes TV and Radio. It is the #1 African and Caribbean station worldwide. If you haven't downloaded our app, please download our app on the Google Play Store and Apple Store. It is free, and you'll be able to watch this interview amongst other very interesting and entertaining programming as well. Remember to go onto our website, afrovibes.tv, and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Afrovibes Radio and Afrovibes Television. Thank you so much again, Mr. Valentine OZIGBO. He is running for the governorship of ANAMBRA State, PDP candidate. We have heard in depth of all the things he plans to do, him and his team, and we've definitely learned a lot. So if you have any questions or any comments about anything he has made, please let us know. You can feel free to email us at info@afrovibesentertainment.com or comment on any of the platforms that you are watching this at. But in any case, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Issa. Follow me at Life of Issa on Instagram, Life of YSAA, and follow Afrovibes TV and Afrovibes Radio. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Spotlight here on Afrovibes TV and Radio. We will see you next time.